Blessings, beloveds. Welcome back. Happy Valentine's Day to all of you. It's actually Valentine's Day for me, where I am in this part of the world. It will be tomorrow for you guys. So just wanted to say happy Valentine's Day. I posted some beautiful flowers in my community section. I hope you appreciated those. I certainly did. They're right behind me. I've got two bunches. Very, very Venus. Got to love and appreciate the goddess of love and beauty who bestows her blessings and gifts upon you, especially when you tune into the vibration frequency of her cosmic heartbeat. I've spoken a lot about Venus lately, probably the last couple of years, a lot more than previously. I just did a video with DJ Nocturna. Shout out to DJ Nocturna, who's a really good friend of mine and an awesome host in her show called The Queen of Wands. We just sat and did a chat on the Mars-Venus cycle. There's more to say about that. I'll come back and talk about that again because Mars and Venus are going to be, as I mentioned, dancing around together for quite some time, actually for a couple of months, which is a little bit unusual. That doesn't necessarily happen every time there's a Mars-Venus conjunction every couple of years or thereabouts. So it's a very interesting occurrence that's going on because it is lining up with a lot of different things, with Pluto, with Vesta, with the US Pluto return chart. This full moon in Leo, which I'm about to talk about today, is also at the same degree of the Pluto return, which happens, the full moon actually happens just a few days before the Pluto return. So, there's the Pluto return for USA. There's so much going on politically on a collective basis. There's some funny things going on as well. We have to be able to laugh a bit, because a lot of this is actually quite laughable in my opinion. You have to find the humor, in this, what I would actually call psychosis. It really is psychosis, what's happening. There's a fracture, like a schism, in the psyche of the collective, and that's merely to bring about the crisis, the necessary crisis, in order for the necessary change to come through. And of course, at a really big picture level, it's all corresponding to Pluto in Capricorn, which is the destruction of the corrupt false systems, okay, that's been happening for a long time. And of course, as Pluto is moving very fast now through the end degrees of Capricorn, we're seeing the cataclysmic nature of what must crumble completely amplified, and hence why we are seeing, tremendous revolutions, that are happening collectively in every single country. And every single country is experiencing a different version of it. Some places are just extremely amplified and intensified. I would say Australia is number one on that list, and I know that for a fact because I reside in this particular location at the moment. US is certainly up there with, a lot of things going on and so on and so forth. But there's a lot of funny things going on. There was on Saturday, the Saturday that just passed, there was a unification from the people presenting themselves to their the parliament, the head of the parliament of whatever country you're in. So wherever the parliament house is in, whatever state it's in, that's where people are unified. And of course, in Australia, that was in Canberra, which is the capital of this country. And by the way, there were over 1 million people, okay, on the Saturday at this particular freedom protest, which is part of the whole convoy movement as well. So, of course, the commercial media did not present it as it truly was, and certainly did not say the true numbers of the amount of people that were there. There's a lot of conflict sort of going on there at the moment because the government and authorities are forcing people to get out of Canberra, essentially. So there's quite a lot of, there's things unfolding moment to moment, every second, as it were. So I'm keeping a very close eye on that, but I don't think it's over just yet. I think that the people that are there will somehow find a way, because the objective is to not leave, to basically stay there and have another unification at the front of Parliament House the Saturday that's coming, right, which is next weekend. So there's just a lot of turbulence going on. Funny thing was, there's New Zealand are also very much unifying and uh, connecting to the whole convoy demonstration and so forth, freedom, etc. And there was this funny scene. Well, one scene that I wouldn't say is funny, I'd say it's extremely powerful. And it actually reminds me of Leo, Lion, the heart, the year of the tiger, that roar, that passionate energy vibration that you can't shut down, right? And what it was in New Zealand, that the native people have a traditional, I suppose you could call it a dance, with a chant. It's called the haka. For those of you that don't know, many of you would know. It's a very, very, very powerful traditional expression of their native culture. And it usually involves predominantly men, but there were lots of women involved, and it is very specific moves and very specific tones and chants that come from a very, very deep place in the heart. And it's a very common thing that happens in the world of rugby, which is a sport sort of similar to football, if you like, but very different, actually, different rules, etc. But every time the national team of New Zealand plays in that sport, they start off by actually doing the haka to their opponents. It's quite an intimidating thing to witness if you don't understand what it is, if you're not in tune with it, and if it's been sort of projected onto you. It's quite intimidating. So anyway, the beautiful natives of New Zealand were doing the haka right in front of Parliament House. It was just a sensational, electrifying, powerful thing to witness, actually. But at some point as well, I'm not sure if it was on that same day or a few days later, this is just the craziness of things that go on, and this is kind of like a humorous sort of thing. And I was just pissing myself laughing when I heard about this. But what the authorities did was they played a song through their speakers, right? This is out the front of Parliament, and they played a song by Barry Manilow, right? Who's an old 80s kind of nightclub singer, if you like, right? And pretty, I don't know, no offense to those that like him, but it's pretty lame kind of music. And they played one of the worst songs ever. It was just this really lame, stupid 80s song over the speaker in order to get rid of the people, right? This is how ridiculous, the thought processes are in these, things that are going on around the world. I mean, they tried spraying them with water, they pepper sprayed them, they did everything, and these natives were not budging, And then they put on this ridiculous song by Barry Manilow. And then, so what the people did, this was hilarious. They had their own speaker system, right? Which was very loud and bigger and louder than what the authorities had. And they played that song by Twisted Sister, right? Which is We're Not Gonna Take It. And it was just the most incredible, funny kind of scene, just the craziness of things that are going on the planet, on so many different spheres. And sometimes it's so overwhelming because there's just so much going on, so much being projected, and of course so many lies, right? And so many things crumbling. So you have to kind of, I don't know, you have to kind of discern and choose what you're going to tune into as well, because it can just be a little bit woohoo, bit crazy, right? There was an incident in Canberra, actually, just yesterday, I think it was, a local female woman who lives in Canberra who is against the protests and all the protesters being there, was basically deliberately smashed into one of the protesters' vehicles, and it literally, her car lifted this person's car off the ground and it actually tumbled. And then she got out of her car and she started assaulting just people that were around there, right, that were pro-choice. I mean, this is the psychosis that's going on at the moment. It's one thing to be divided in your perspective and opinion, and it's another thing to be so out of fucking control that you need to exert violence and aggression, onto people. It's just complete insanity. So anyway, there's so much going on. Okay, so let's talk about the full moon in Leo, right? So I guess the thing is to always go back to where did this cycle begin, because this is the lunation cycle. Lunation cycle really refers to the sun-moon relationship. The lunation cycle always begins at the new moon, right? And that happened, of course, 2 weeks ago with the new moon in Aquarius, which was conjunct Saturn, right? And as that cycle has progressed, we can see that Saturn is coming up to squaring the moon's nodes, which recently ingressed into Scorpio and Taurus. I've spoken about that briefly, and I might come back and give some more on that because there is more to say. We also have, during this full moon, exact Venus-Mars conjunction in Capricorn, which is part of the Capricorn-Venus morning star. Vesta, the goddess Vesta, is there. And the thing with this particular full moon that is going to really amplify this energy is that it is square the moon's nodes, like only less than a degree apart, meaning that's a very, very tight configuration of the sun and the moon's nodes, basically creating what we call a grand cross. It's a grand fixed cross or a grand square cross. You may have heard that term. And grand crosses are very, very dynamic, extremely dynamic planetary configurations and themes that definitely highlight and amplify and bring up whatever that energy, that pattern is speaking to in that moment. Especially remember that the moon cycle, the sun moon cycle, it's a very quick cycle, right? We have it every month. We have a full moon every month. We have a new moon every month. And typically it acts as a timer. The moon is always a timer for things to kind of tick, to tick off or tick away or get activated, right? The bigger things that are happening collectively and even personally in our own lives are always described by or activated from much slower moving bodies in the chart. The moon moves very quickly, right? The sun does as well, certainly not as quickly, but the moon particularly. So the moon always acts as a timer, and the moon is also representative of humanity as well. It represents the people, right? And one thing to note about that, at best, on a collective level, with the moon in Leo and the sun in Aquarius, which is what we have here with this full moon, the full moon in Leo is at a really powerful activation point for the heart center of humanity, right? For the soul of the family, if you like, the human race. There's a strong resonance of hearts being activated and coming together through this energy and standing in their truth and their power, authenticity, which is the opposite sun in Uranus, and standing in with courage, right? It is the tiger year as well, so it is all about courage at the moment, really standing true in our courage. And with a grand fixed cross, which is what we have with this full moon, fixed signs are the signs that actually assist us at best to stand with whatever it is we need to stand with. In other words, to have persistence, right, with whatever is presented, and to not back off, and to bring in that Leo lion heart, right, that has the most magnificent courage. Look at the Leo lion in the jungle. He's the king, right? He's the king of the jungle. So this is the vibration that's been activated at the moment collectively through the full moon, and it is largely an extension, a magnification, and an illumination of what began 2 weeks ago when we had the new moon in Aquarius, which is again all about the people, fairness, justice, equality, things to be approached and dealt with through justice, Aquarius, to be fair and equal and balanced and just for everybody, right? And so when you're talking about systems that have, corrupt agendas in play that don't operate from a place of integrity, honesty, transparency, then the people coming through, which is all this Aquarius energy being represented in, basically, the month of February, we have this force of amplification of energy with this full moon in Leo, of it's like the lion heart of humanity, right? The lion heart of the people saying, no, we're not having it. We're not going to tolerate your bullshit anymore. It's just, we cannot simply swallow it anymore. It's time. It's time for us to have our heart heard, our hearts united, as opposed to divided, right? So I see it as a really positive thing, but obviously it's going to be fairly cataclysmic in a lot of ways as well. And the biggest reason for that, so let me just share my screen. And let's bring up the full moon chart. So here is the full moon in Leo. So it's a sun moon opposition. It always is. And let me just highlight that for those that may not be aware of symbols. So there's the sun and the moon opposite each other. And can I make that? Oh. Okay, I just want to enlarge that screen. Yeah, just a little bit, just to be a little bit more visible. Okay, so let's go back to that. So sun opposite moon, full moon in Leo, sun in Aquarius. The Aquarius, I mean, the solar energy is really that point of self-actualization. It is the sun is how we, self-actualize. It's how we become, how we project, if you like, our persona, right, for the purposes of our destiny and purpose in life. And so this is a cosmic destiny with the sun in Aquarius at the moment and Saturn in Aquarius, projecting, right, the unification of people coming together for the purposes of a better future, a better reality, a better life, for equilibrium, balance, justice, and harmony, because we've had enough of this BS of, Pluto in Capricorn, revealing to us, actually, since 2008, revealing to us ever so clearly, the absolute bogus and corruption that's involved in these systems that seem to hold the majority of power, right? But the truth is, the power is in humanity, right? It's in us. It's just about waking up to that, right? And so the cataclysmic nature of things are just, amplifying the awakening that's going on. So again, there's so many different layers. But here's the interesting thing. So transiting Pluto, which is at the 27th degree of Capricorn, which is the degree of the Pluto return chart for the US. So this is just literally 5 days before the US Pluto return, which is when it begins, but it's going to be active basically till the end of the year, because there's going to be like 3 passings over before the completion of that return actually gets to its finish point, right, which is towards the end of the year. So we're looking at really, really, really amplified matters in the US relative to government, politics, systems, etc. There's going to be severe things that are going to take place, and I don't mean severe in a bad way. I don't even like to use that word bad, but severe things from the point of view of the necessary cataclysmic nature of things that need to crumble, that point to lies, deception, and corruption. Okay, and the full moon, which is at the 27th degree of Leo, is actually forming an inconjunct or a quincunx. Those two words are used interchangeably because they actually refer to the same thing, which is just simply what is the relationship between the moon and Pluto in this chart relative to the angle, in other words, the distance between them. So the distance between them falls into what we call an inconjunct. There are 2 different inconjuncts. There's a gibbous and there's a full moon inconjunct, right? And without going into the technicalities of that and the complexities of that, let me just say that this inconjunct with the moon and Pluto is actually a full phase quincunx aspect, and that actually makes it more visible, if you like. The gibbous inconjunct still has quite a lot of work to do, right? But the full phase inconjunct seems to have more potential for resolving the crisis that's actually being highlighted, because an inconjunct aspect actually refers to crisis, right? The crisis occurs in order for the appropriate change necessary to take place, to be advocated for, to be embodied. Now, on a personal level, this obviously refers to our own heart, right? The moon in Leo, and how we are opening our heart and what we are opening our heart to. And there can be some dark things that come out of this because it is Pluto, right? So, I mean, Leo is not dark. It's very light-hearted, actually. It's very passionate, very courageous, and it has, tremendous creative potential and juice. It is the inner child. It is, the playful side to us and so on and so forth. It has all that lovely stuff to it. But, Pluto's got a very strong presence here. It is on the same degree of the moon. So we cannot absolutely disregard that. That's just hugely important for this full moon. So there is some kind of, crisis implied with our own emotional state of where we stand and how truthful we are standing in our own heart. Are we tuning into that real courage, Leo, from our heart center, or are we just crumbling and falling into the Saturn consensus, if you like, state of what's being shoved down your throat, right, about this reality at the moment? So, it really does take courage. I was going to use another word, but I won't. It really does take courage to stand in your heart. Think of that movie that Mel Gibson did. It was called Braveheart. I love that movie. I mean, Braveheart, right? That's and Leo is a sign of bravery, right? So all these conditions at the moment on the Earth plane relative to the consistent amplification of authorities trying to shut down liberation, freedom of speech, freedom of choice with regards to our health, our body, our lifestyle, our life choices. I mean, in what sane world does it sound normal to have a system force you into what you should do with your health? In what sane mind or world does that actually feel or sound normal? Really? I mean, the sad thing is that they've managed to normalize this narrative to the extent where so many people are manipulated by it, frankly speaking. That's my opinion, okay? You can bash it if you want. I don't care. I'm still going to speak it, right? So this is about having that courage to stand in the face of adversity, but not through, I'm not suggesting, and I never advocate for aggression and violence, but I always advocate for the ability to be assertive and transparent and honest and courageous in your own heart, right? With what you understand, with what is right for you, not taking something that's fed to you, right, about what's appropriate or what's not appropriate, but really being in touch with that integral component within you and understanding the truth from within your own heart. So Leo smashes that heart open, takes us in there, but with that in conjunct to Pluto, there is some kind of, another word for the quincunx or in conjunct aspect is, apart from crisis, is adjustment as well. So there's an adjustment that's going on here, but it is speaking to the soul of the world, Pluto, right? The massive evolution and transformations that are going on at the moment. And this is just a full moon relative to it being activated for, let's say, a couple of days, but it is a timer of deeper things that are going on, right? As I said earlier. So there's quite a bit going on in this chart. We have the, where are we? The Venus-Mars conjunction, which is exact here, and obviously it's lining up with Vesta. We also, and I've spoken about that, as I said, fairly extensively. There is a video that you can go and watch just before this one if you want to hear all about Mars-Venus. But what I like about this full moon is that Mercury is now back in Aquarius, right? This is fantastic because the beautiful things about the lion heart and the brave heart are so powerful and so electrifying. Uranus, Uranus and the sun in Aquarius But the moon in Leo taps into that side of us that speaks to courage, as I said. But you know, the one of the things with Leo is that we always need to take into account the polarity, which is Aquarius. And so the when we're standing in the heart of Leo, it is that point of self-actualizing the deepest truth from your own heart, to have the courage to stand in that, right? The grand fixed cross, these are all fixed signs: sun, moon, south node, north node, fixed signs, right? This is standing in and persisting and not giving in or giving up. And this is what we have to do, right? We must do that for, well, for the future of our children at the very least, you know, and for ourselves moving forward too. And Leo, of course, is a sign of children. And there is so much going on relative to these freedom movements about fairness, equality, justice, and right point of action, freedom to choose. A lot of it is about the children, especially of late. It's been predominantly about the children since these coerced mandates, which are not even laws, they're just mandates. The word mandatory doesn't is not a law. Anyway, that's another story. So there's a lot of advocation for children, of course, right? And I think this full moon in Leo is going to highlight that even more. So there's going to be some very interesting turn of events going on there. But I was just going to say, with Mercury in Aquarius, where is it? Just there. I think this really helps us to actually remain very objectively from a mental perspective, because with Leo, we can get a little bit lost sometimes with our own perhaps self-importance, if you like, or needing to be, you know, the center of attention, just to use very, very basic lingo for, you know, the Leo energy. And so the Mercury in Aquarius really enables us to have that clear, detached, and objective mental perspective, and also being able to discern through all the lies and the crap that's circulating through media or TV, you know, whatever, wherever it is, because it's everywhere. But Mercury in Aquarius really gives us that clear, objective, detached stance in our mental sphere. And that's really, really important, because our mind plays so many tricks on us, right? A lot of what we do, you know, literally whilst we are awake, particularly as in not sleeping, not unconscious as in just being completely out of touch with what's going on. Just when you go to sleep, you know, that your mind works in different ways, right, with the unconscious components. But on your day-to-day level, when you're awake and you are communicating and you are, you know, absorbing information, and you are reading something and you are communicating something, that's Mercury, right? That's all of Mercury. So, you know, the Mercury in Aquarius, as I was saying, really helps us discern objectively what we need, right, to understand the bigger picture. Aquarius is always the bigger picture, and it's always connected to humanity and fairness, equality, justice, and so forth. I was trying to make another point then, I've just lost it. Perhaps it will come back to me. Let's just see. Okay, what else have we got going on here? We've got, let me see. Neptune's forming a sextile actually to the Mars Venus as well. So that adds quite a bit of romance, quite a bit of idealism, romance. And of course, you know, Leo is a sign of romance as well, drama, you know, it's quite theatrical, right? I heard that, I thought this was pretty funny actually. Just to bring in some light-hearted news about celebrities. I thought this was sweet but really funny at the same time. Ben Affleck, the actor Ben Affleck, who is a Leo, who is in a relationship with Jennifer Lopez, who's also a Leo. I wonder with those two how it works relative to their own specialness and the attention they need from each other. I think that would be really funny, two Leos together, especially at that caliber with their level of artistry and who they are and so forth. I sometimes wonder about that and think it's pretty funny. But anyway, apparently he made, forget about chocolates and flowers, he made a whole video for her about him and her and their love and their moments they've shared together and so forth. And that was his Valentine's gift to her. I thought that was really cute. So, you know, there's Leo Leo is very demonstrative, right, with the passion and the heart and the feelings they feel for somebody. So, this might be getting away from politics and the crisis and the cataclysmic nature of reality at the moment. Let's just go back into some romance territory and some drama from that level. This can be a really beautiful time to be playful, in your love life, in your love connections, in your ability to express your heart in a really playful and cheeky and fun kind of way as well. So there's a real lightheartedness, here as well. It doesn't have to be all intense and dark, but I can't help getting away from that Pluto being exactly in conjunct the moon. It's a little bit like coming to some sense of clarity or illumination, right? Because it is a full moon, about some deeper feelings that you have about somebody, for instance, and it's all kind of amplified and activated, during this full moon. Here's some comments about Moon Pluto. These themes, themes that I'm about to sort of read. You can think about it from the point of view of any Moon Pluto aspect, really, right? But each aspect has its own very specific characteristics as well. So you do need to understand the aspect. But just generally speaking, these are just some really good key words for Moon Pluto energy, right? And this is a full moon. The full moon, we know it illuminates and amplifies whatever it's shining on, and shining on everything and everyone, the whole world, right? And shining in our own heart, most importantly. So emotional intensity, deep and passionate feelings, powerful catharsis of repressed energies and emotions, renewal and regeneration in one's home life, because the moon, it represents many different things, but one thing it represents is also our home life. So whilst it's the emotional body and our own emotions and feelings about things, the moon corresponds to family and home as well, right? So it can activate some things in the family and home life too. So regeneration in one's home life, kindness during times of crisis. That's an interesting statement there. I need to kind of think about that myself, actually. Extreme emotional reactions. Yes, that's definitely possible. Dark and obsessive feelings, yes. A tendency to brood and smolder, challenging outbursts in one's home and family life. So, those are some of the principles that can be activated with the, Moon Pluto energy. Some further thoughts: deep and profound feelings, strong passions, regeneration through feelings, healing relationships in which people face strong emotions together, with both being transformed through the experience, opportunities to process at home, regeneration, renewal in one's home life, the capacity to act as an emotional midwife, compassion for those in intense situations such as dying, giving birth, being born, or during holotropic states, blends of catharsis and compassion. Now that's a really interesting point there, because at the moment there are, and I'm sure this is happening collectively in similar ways. For instance, the protesters that are in Canberra, the capital of Australia at the moment, a lot of them are homeless, right? These are individuals who had professions, professional lives, who have families, who worked in the medical fields, the emergency fields, a whole bunch of different fields. We're talking about people who had a position in society, who are also helping people in society, right? Particularly in the emergency and medical fields and levels, right? And a lot of these people now are homeless because they've lost their jobs due to choosing to remain sovereign and free in their God-given right to choose, right? And so, losing your home, especially when you've got a family and things like that, it is probably one of the most cataclysmic things that can happen to you, right? And so the reason I'm mentioning that is because there's been, tremendous support and outpour from the community at large, right? even in Canada with the convoy, and my heart really, really, really goes out to them, particularly because of the freezing conditions they've had to endure with this journey that they've taken. We're talking, I mean, I don't even know what it's like to feel that level of cold, because we don't get that here in this part of the world. Not where I am anyway. I've never even seen snow. I've never been in the snow. Can you believe that? I've never been in the snow. I'm a summer person anyway, so it doesn't really bother me. But one day I would like to, I think when I come to New York, because I'm coming to New York and some other places too. So for all you New Yorkers, reach out, and I'd love to connect with you when I come there. So the people in Canada with these freezing conditions, people have been pouring out, with generosity, right? Kindness, offering food, offering, I saw a video where, because the authorities have somehow brought in a law that prohibits people from putting petrol into their vehicles during these times. How freaking psychotic is that? What the community has done is they've gone and filled big, like barrel cans, whatever you call them, of fuel, and have taken them to the truckies, right? I mean, you've got to really take your hat off, right, to these people who are just standing in their truth, right, and who are doing whatever they can in the smallest or largest way to help. This is a helping thing. This is not what's the word? I've just lost the word. Intruding or disrupting. Thank you. Disrupting. This is not a disruptive thing to it. That certainly the authorities feel it to be a sort of disruptive thing, because it's disrupting their BS plans, right, and their little program and agenda. So it's incredibly disruptive to them, but it's not disruptive to the truth and to the integrity and authenticity of the people who are merely standing for fairness, justice, pro-choice, equality, and no more BS of coercion and control, disguised through the mask of implying that it is contributing to our well-being. We all know that it's not. And for those of you that don't know, then I have no words. So getting back to this moon Pluto, this can be a really volatile, intense set of energy. I think it's going to have something to do with children as well, the protection of children, further things happening with that, just taking care of community, providing shelter, safety, security, and things like that. As I was saying, a lot of the people are homeless, and they today were advised by authorities because they had set up camp in an area that is just designated to camping, which was right next to Parliament House, and the authorities have gone in and demanded that all people leave from there. Now, these people, where do they go? They don't have anywhere to go. They're homeless. Where are they going to go? At least they have been so respectful of the state there, the country itself, and they have all, taken refuge, if you like, in one designated area that is otherwise empty, which is designed for camping. And these people are extremely clean, respectful. They haven't trashed or put garbage, or they haven't done any of that crazy stuff where people just don't give a shit. They've done everything absolutely right by the book, as it were, in order to show that they're not there to disrespect anything or anybody, but they are there to speak the importance of sovereignty and freedom. And that is happening everywhere anyway, right? And so, that's the Leo energy in me that comes out when I think about that and speak about that relative to this moon in Leo. Okay, so let's see, what else have I got here? The other thing I think that's Well, really important to mention is that all planets are moving direct at the moment, right? Have a look at this chart. This is a chart for the moon in Leo. You can see the only things retrograde are the nodes, which are, they're always retrograde. Occasionally they'll be stationary, but they're always retrograde. That's just their movement, right? But look at every other planet in the chart. Normally, if something is retrograde, you'd see the same way you see the little R there with these nodes, you'd see an R right behind the degrees referencing a planet. Anyway, nothing is retrograde at the moment. Everything is direct. So when things are direct, it seems that the external activity is amplified. There's a lot more action that takes place because a planet moving direct is focused on the external and particularly on the consensus field of things. When planets are retrograde, we have a retrospective, inner, reflective journey and process that we undergo. It doesn't mean that we sit back and don't do nothing. In fact, during retrograde periods, we make really important decisions and sometimes make the most important choice during that time. There is that. But when all planets are moving direct, the amplification of activity on the external plane is completely amplified. So we have that as well in this full moon picture, right? So there's quite a bit going on. The fixed cross with the nodes, meaning the persistence of the people. Sun in Aquarius, the people are going to persist. They are not going to back down. These systems have tried to put so much BS in play, right, in order to stop the movement of the freedom of people, right? And the people are still standing strong and they will continue. Then they're not going to be defeated. We are not going to be defeated. The roar of the lion heart is beating and it's coming up to roar in a very, very, very huge way during this full moon. Ain't nobody backing down from this. And it is also the degrees, as I said, of the Pluto return chart, right? So let me just show you that. Here it is here. So this is the return chart for Pluto for USA. You know, this speaks volumes to what's going to happen in USA, particularly during 2022. There's been a lead up of this clearly, you know, for quite some time now, but we are, you guys at least, you know, you're really at that edge right now where things are just going to start crashing a lot faster and with a lot more potency and intensity. Admittedly, though, Pluto is going to go retrograde in April, so that's going to kind of halt things back a little bit. And during that process is going to be a lot of revision of things, but that's all necessary, right? But as we stand up to today at this point in time, which is Valentine's Day here, and will be for you guys tomorrow, and the full moon is on the 16th, 17th. This is the, you know, the full moon is the lead up of these energies of the US chart, which you can see there's the Pluto at 27 degrees, right? That's where the moon is, the full moon at 27 degrees. So it's distinctly and specifically highlighting that degree, right, of the Pluto return. There's much more to this, and if I have time, I'll come back and talk about the Pluto return for US, because this chart alone is an interpretation and a standalone chart for what it speaks to relative to the Pluto return. I'm just like really just touching the very little tip of the iceberg with just a couple of comments I made. I'm aware of that because I wasn't intending on going into an analysis of the US chart today, at least anyway. Let's go back to the Leo full moon chart and let me just see if there was anything that I wanted to add further. I think that's basically it, but just, you know, just to wrap up and in summary, what we're really dealing with here is the expression and radiance of the self-actualized sense of our own identity and what speaks truthful in our own heart, what resonates and vibrates in our own heart, whether that is in our own personal life, or where we stand with this collective narrative at the moment, and also back to the personal life with our beloveds and our loved ones and so forth, you know, to be courageous enough to open our heart and maybe give something that we haven't been able to give previously. I think that's a pretty important message with the moon in Leo. And you know, I guess that the thing with the romantic love side of things, there's always the fear for people that if I open my heart, it might not be accepted, you know, I might be rejected. And when we're coming from that place of opening our heart, it's not it is a component of opening your heart, but it is also a conditional thing, because you are thinking to yourself, if I open my heart and give something to this person of my heart and they reject it, then I'm going to be hurt. So I understand that that's also a protective thing, and we want to protect ourselves from getting hurt. And so boundaries are very important for sure, but sometimes you've got to take risks as well. You know, the sun in Aquarius energy is all about taking risks, right? Stepping into the unknown. Aquarius Uranus is stepping into the unknown, taking a risk into something that doesn't feel safe and secure, but something that will ultimately freaking liberate you, right? And liberate your heart center as well, at least to be authentic and free. And what I was getting at was the whole giving, the matter of giving, at least from the heart center, from the most authentic place inside you, is to give without the expectation of anything, but rather just to give. Because true giving is giving something and just letting it go, right? And not having the expectation in return. And if it is reciprocated, pardon me, in the way that your heart so desires, then blessed you are. And if it is not, you are still blessed, because you've given something, and there's nothing more beautiful than giving, especially giving love, because these sorts of courageous expressions and offerings never go unnoticed by divine source creation to all things. So even in the journey of your life where you find your beloved and you have this crazy love with them, and you know, whatever it is, that's all fine. It can be electrifying, it can be fulfilling, it can be a number of different things, but the ultimate alignment with your heart and the deepest love connection is with the ultimate source of all things. And that is something that is it never gets unplugged. If somebody injects some love into you, right, they can plug that out at any time. And once they plug it out, you're deflated, right? And it's sort of like it's not there anymore. That love's not there by that person. That energy, where's it gone? Now I feel empty. Now I feel I don't have that. And that's the that's the very challenging thing of being human. We get so caught up in that. But when we are plugged in, which we always are, it's just really about bringing our awareness to it. Awareness is Aquarius, Leo is the heart, and these are the energies that are being balanced equally at the moment, and asking us to step into them so that we have this balanced, objective, true understanding of the bigger picture, and holding that space in our deepest place of our heart, which enables us also to receive and give, right? And what I was trying to say was that when you're plugged in, it's an infinite stream of that energy that will never leave you, will never be unplugged. So it's really about shifting our heart's awareness to that stream, And then it's a little bit like, if you think about a cross, which is the cross of matter, which is also represented by a birth chart, which is also represented here with the nodes and the full moon being at the nodes. You can think about the center point of the cross as being your heart. Christ consciousness could be another term. For those that have an aversion to that term, because they associate it with indoctrination and mainstream religion, you can just replace it with heart consciousness. Just depends what language appeals to you. It's just language. It doesn't really matter. An idea and language really doesn't matter. It matters from the point of view of how we are communicating and what meaning words have. But when you go deeper into the words, let's say, the depth is in a space that has no language. The language of the soul is the heart. The language of the soul is source creation to all things. It has a very different language, and it does correspond very deeply to very deep feelings, not emotions, very deep feelings. Emotions, the word emotion, if you go to the root meaning of that, basically means to stir something up out of its center, right? In short, that's what it means. Whereas feelings are the nature of the soul. Emotions are the nature of the personality. So we must always find that anchor and that inner compass to that deep heart center that is not susceptible or vulnerable or inconsistent or changeable. It is always there, forever present. And so going back to that fixed cross, the center is your heart, that consciousness of the heart, and the angles of that cross, right? And the pathway on that cross, they are all the different experiences that you are having in your life. Some take you back, some take you forward, some take you out, some take you in. You can think about that cross of matter in that way. But at the end of the day, you can always come back to that center, which is the anchor of the depths of the soul and the heart, which nothing can hurt that. So I think that's probably the best place to leave the full moon in Leo, heart-centered awareness. It feels good, actually. It feels really, really good when I tune into that when I'm speaking about it, because when I'm speaking about it, I'm really feeling it. You know, it's not just ideas, words and language. Like I'm really feeling what I'm saying. It's really quite beautiful, actually. Just finally, with the going back to this cross and the sun and moon being on that, being the components that make up this fixed cross. I think this is like a real karmic turning of the wheel as well. That's the sense I get of it, because it is a full moon representing the heart of the people, Leo, Aquarius, and the nodes have only recently ingressed into Taurus and Scorpio, and we're at a real crisis point again with this lunation cycle. We're at a really critical point with regards to our own authenticity and heart-centered awareness, and how we can sort of support and sustain and nurture that, right? And not cave in on what doesn't feel right for us, what doesn't feel authentic. And we must do it in a peaceful way, because the North Node is in Taurus, and the North Node in Taurus, I'm coming back to talk about that, but it is very much about restoring balance on the earth. In order for balance to be restored, all the bullshit that's been hiding, right, under all these layers, because it's all ruffled now, it's just all been, it's like the earth has she's just done a bit of a boogie. She's shaken herself, right? And she's showing all the crap that's been hidden in layers. So that's why everything's just being exposed left, right, and center. And it's like there's this tsunami of dust, debris, crap that's just flying around everywhere. And it will eventually settle because the false will crumble. The false always does crumble. And as it's crumbling, we are creating this new earth, Taurus, right? And so this full moon is a really powerful turning of the wheel with these nodes. Nodes are very you could say they're strongly linked to the evolution of the soul of each of us and the soul of the planet. And they bring about very karmic events and circumstances as well, because the South Node can highlight and bring into play things from the past that may be necessary at a certain point. And the North Node is how we are integrating towards the new paradigm moving forward, right? So this, Leo, Aquarius, lion heart of the people standing in their bravery and courage of truth to make sure that we are on track with restoring, balance and peace on the earth, North Node in Taurus. I bet I didn't repeat myself a bit there. I don't think I did, but I felt that was a really important message to kind of leave it with. So I'll see you guys very, very soon. Happy Valentine's Day. Sending you all much love and blessings. And if you want to have a reading with me, just shoot me an email. My email is in the description below the video. There's many different readings that I offer, one-on-one sessions in different ways, tutorials, if you want to learn astrology, if you want to learn about your chart, whatever. I have a very eclectic, thankfully, the source creation to all things has graced me with a pretty good eclectic range of understanding and insight with these beautiful teachings and wisdoms. And when you work with me, you will see that, because that's what you will experience when you have a reading with me. And any person that's had a reading with me would vouch for that. I'm pretty certain. I mean, I get feedback pretty much from every single person I've worked with. And I have to say, and this might sound untrue, but it's not. I haven't had any bad feedback. I honestly haven't. And I think that's mainly because when I work with you, I work with my heart. I don't think of you as just a client or just another person, or I'm just doing another reading. Never. I've never approached a reading like that. Sometimes the reason it takes me a while to get through, a build-up of schedule, as it were, is because that's the way I work. And when I sit down and I do your reading, people have no idea what goes on behind the scenes for my preparation, and I mean energetically as well. So I will never do a reading if I'm not feeling good within myself. If I can't strike that connection with you and your chart, there's so many layers that come into the process of what I give in that reading, and that's why they are so valuable, right? So yeah, okay. See you soon, guys, and happy full moon in Leo. Happy Valentine's Day. Let that lion heart beat and roar and stand and shine, and we will be fine moving forward. We just really need to be extra resilient. We really do. Bye for now.